So I'm sure that quite a few of you have heard the warning, beware of the uncanny valley. There you go. And so since we all love Wikipedia charts, of course, I thought I'd supply you one while explaining that the uncanny valley really isn't a mythical land, but more so a hypothesis in the field of human aesthetics that says that if something is more than 85% or so human-looking, but less than 95% human-looking, then us real humans will find it kind of uncomfortable. It's a little awkward. Things like zombies, for example, fall in the uncanny valley. And so I thought I would compare this to everyone's favorite caffeinated beverage. It's certainly mine, coffee. A nice iced coffee is amazing. A hot coffee, I'll take one of those too. But the real problem here is when your hot coffee has gone cold and you have this really awkward cold cup of coffee and you need the caffeine, but you can't really drink it. What do you do? And the thing about that is that you might drink it anyway because it's functional, it's caffeinating, but there's nothing delightful about it. You don't connect with it. You don't get excited about it. And so essentially things that are close to right, but not quite right, like that cold cup of coffee, feel really wrong. And as somebody who loves connecting one industry to the other, I really like to think of wearable technology this way. So we have our fancy techno-centric consumer. He's got all the devices. He's using them all at once because that's what we're supposed to do. He's getting his tweets and his yos. He's like the cool guy on the block. The thing is that looking at him honestly makes me feel a little uncomfortable. And I feel like he's not really vibing with that either. And even though we have wonderfully functional technology, it's not really suiting us. We're missing an essential element, which is ergonomic design. So let's look at what's already on the market. Let's look at Google Glass, for example, which is an amazing touch-sensitive piece of technology, which is fantastic. But the thing about it is that it's strapped to a frontal headband, and I don't know about you, but I've never really worn one of those, so it's not something that really connects with me. On the other hand, though, something that's essential to human connection is being able to look someone in the eye and understand them. And this is part of ergonomic design. As great as augmented reality is, we still have to remember that we're designing for humans who look at one another. And so designing something that blocks that vision really isn't enhancing the human experience. It's creating a different experience. And I think that focusing on the human experience is so important when it comes to wearable technology. So how do we make more ergonomic design? And I think that the answer is to create multidisciplinary teams. So we have our team that's working together and collaborating. We should have a piece being passed from the technologist to the designer and back and forth, and we should argue and fight and think about it and come to great conclusions and all of this jazz. And I feel like what we're doing right now currently is kind of the equivalent of a Ford factory line where the technologist or engineer designs or creates something, they design the schematics for it, and then they pass it off to the designer to make it look pretty or as pretty as they can, and then we put it to the market. There's no real back and forth, and because of that, design often isn't woven into what we're creating. It's applied on top of what we're creating. And so why do we want ergonomic design in the first place, right? It's for easy integration. So when we're young, we learn to use all of these amazing tools around us. And since we're all eating here, I thought the spoon would be a lovely example of a tool that we've all learned to use since we were very young. The spoon, of course, isn't technological, but the thing about it is that it has an ergonomic and very visceral connection with us. So if I'm using a silver spoon, I feel very fancy. If I'm using a plastic spoon, that's because I didn't want to do dishes that night. If I'm using my hands, well then, I feel kind of savage. It's not very polite. And I have this emotional connection to this very simple but well-designed object. So how do we get wearable technology to have that same sort of connection with us? Generally, when you want to have a connection with someone else, you ask them questions, right? But not too many. We don't want to be nosy, so just the right amount of questions. And with that thought in mind, we created a company called Created, where we do research and development for future wearable things, so things that interact with the body, by asking questions. One of our questions was, can clothing be modular thanks to technology? So can clothing meet us where we are instead of us always going to it and trying to fit into it in different ways? Our outcome was a shirt called Zygomatic. Essentially, it's controlled by a computer interface to change shape, hypothetically someday completely transforming from one thing to the other. Another question we asked is can multidisciplinary ideation create new products, specifically over certain topics? So we talked about wearables and particularly batteries. What kind of new energy forms can we get to power the wearables that we have, taking teams of everything from scientists to designers to general weirdos to just look at the topic and see if we can build something in that really collaborative mindset. And then another question we asked ourselves is that can wearables be inexpensive? Inexpensive because that means that it's inclusive and it's kind of more whimsical. It's not this deep-pocketed fancy toy that you show to other people, but something that your friend might also have and that you can use to connect with one another. So we created a pendant called Tribe that is used at events, and you can connect with other people by sending them light messages. So at the end of the day, I think we've created our own uncanny valley here. We looked at well-designed and ergonomic objects like the spoon. We see how well this works for us and that we enjoy using things like this. However, in the middle falls really highly technical objects that have functional but not ergonomic design, which takes us back to our technocentric, uber-cool consumer. What we really hope for and what we're trying to do at Created is get to the other side of that uncanny valley. So how can we combine ergonomic design and highly functional technology in order to create a bond between human and object? And I think that's really where the future of wearable technology lies. Thank you.